Good morning, and thank you, Peter, for the kind
Well,
introduction.
over to you, Antonio. Now we're live.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Thank you for the kind introduction. A pleasure to be here with such an amazing group of experts talking about projects, PPM, and so on. I'm going to give a very quick update on things I'm working, researching, which are very disruptive. So I think I have good news and challenging news for the project management profession. I think the introduction has been made. I was chairman of PMI in 2016, board member for 6 years. We launched the Brightline initiative. Basically, my focus is how can we make project management more relevant to the senior leaders. That has been 15 years of research and teaching to them and writing. So 3 topics I'll cover in these 25 minutes. What's the project economy? I wrote this project economy concept like 3 years ago, I think. Because I saw there was a big shift in the world, and I'll explain what I mean with the project economy. Then I think project management has to be reinvented. When I talk about project management, I talk about everything: PMOs, portfolio management, prioritization. So I'm going to deep dive briefly on that, and what's the role we need to play in the future, in this new future that we're living now. And I think it's right, but it's not just going to be, well, now you are the star and you don't need to change anything. Actually, I think we need to change or learn many new things as to be successful in the future. So what's the project economy? From a macro perspective, the world will never see, has never seen as many projects as we'll see in the 5 to 10 next years. Reconstruction after COVID is just massive. Companies have shifted radically into project-based mode just to recover from the crisis. So on the world, there will be millions of projects which need millions of project managers. There's no doubt. But the point I want to make today is more on what happens in organizations. I'm not talking a project-based organization consulting type, which just does project. I'm talking about a pharma company, a telecom company, public sector. So what happens is over 80 years, the focus has been operations. Focus, how can we run the business more successfully? Cheaper, more efficient, more volumes. That's the blue side. So every organization has 2 business models, 2 dimensions. The run, so it's about efficiency, and the change. And just very recent, a few years ago, the priority has been always the run. That's where the attention of management goes. That's where you make a career when you're in the run into a traditional career paths. That's where everything happens. Projects have been nice additions, sometimes strategic, but I'm talking to people already that know that we've not been very relevant. But over the years, we've seen a big improvement in operations. You need much less resources today to run your operation than 10, 20, 30 years ago. So what happens is there's a massive shift of people working in projects part-time, people who are working projects full-time, but they will never become project managers as us. So that's all the improvement. The dramatic change happens just now. And in the next years is when you will start having, it happened with the COVID, where suddenly the shift switches. So everybody drop operations and move into project to save companies. So you could see that a huge shift. But now with artificial intelligence and robots, the shift is just huge. I've been in banking for 7 years, and there you don't find many people running the operation. Most of the people I know, they work in projects or agile teams. So everybody around you will be working projects. Everybody around you will pretend to lead projects. This is great. The opportunities for us to shine. So I think the future of work is project-based. There's no doubt about that. It's also when you see startups and Asian companies, they're very much project-based. I'm writing this book as we speak. This weekend is my last deadline. Harvard Business Review Project Management Handbook. The whole purpose is to reinvent project management and to focus it on senior leaders. So I think that's a big gap to the market. But we did some research with HBR, and we asked executives, have you seen an increase in numbers of projects in your company? We had about 1,300 replies. About 50% of the respondents said, yeah, we've doubled or tripled the amount of projects in the past 5 years. So just a bit of evidence of my chart. Big. We're planning a master class with one summit later on in the year, but this is a huge change. This is something that affects every single aspect of organizations, from the objectives, culture, to the focus plan. Just highlighted a few things, from what I call a world driven by efficiency, where operations was prime, to a world driven by change. So you see very diverse, very different, where culture has to be entrepreneurship, collaborative. It's not about operation plans, the year plans, is about strategic programs. I think the deep type of skills that we need to be successful in a world-driven change are not the expertise that all of us have trained with through university to be expert in marketing, to be expert in accounting, in sales. That's gone. I'll explain that later. The chief operating officer, number two, most of the companies will disappear. I think that role is dead. We don't have operations. It will be run by machines. So I think we'll see the rise of the chief project officer, chief transformation as number two in many organizations. There's many aspects. I just highlight a few, which might be hierarchies. We know the hierarchy was very useful, very efficient to work in that operational driven world, but it's not in a change. You need agile teams and you need project-based teams. So remove the layers. This is a very important point I want to make. I've worked in PMOs for 15 years. PMOs are a box in a hierarchy. PMOs, if you look at PMI principles, are a box in a hierarchy, and that's wrong. That's dead. So the way we see PMOs is dead. Prioritization, as we've seen so far, is dead. Prioritization was effective when you have 20 projects. Today's companies have 1,000. You cannot use the methods that we've seen for the past 30 years in project management. So sorry for that, but lots have to change. So great, because lots of projects are happening, but the success rate is terrible. I as a voice in the world of project management, I feel ashamed saying 7 out of 10 projects fail. Look at Harvard, look at Bryland, look at McKinsey. They all say that, statistics, research says that 6 to 7 projects fail. This is unacceptable. This is such a waste of value that we're putting. I'm not blaming only project managers or the PM community. I think there's many things to change there, but this is not acceptable. Imagine you go to the hospital and 7 operations out of 10 people die. Or you fly planes when you could, or hopefully soon, 7 planes crashes out of 10. This is what is happening today in projects, and it's not acceptable. I think we need to step up as a community saying this is not acceptable. And if you make the math and you say, well, we're going to double, we're going to make success by 30%. So 6 out of 10 projects succeed. The value, estimate value, that we will bring to the economy globally will be the same as the GDP of China every year, just by doing the projects better, just by failing only 3 times instead of 7. So I think this is one of my biggest asks that I'm raising to the project management community. We need to do much better. And if our role, again, is not our fault many times, but we need to tell the people who are faulty, they need to step up as well. So what needs to change? I'll give you 3 points. There's a few more, but I'll just highlight a few. I think we need to simplify dramatically project management. We need to expand the project life cycle, and we need to develop additional triple constraints. So these are, I've been in project management 25 years. I've been close to PMI, Prince 2 for 20 years, and I'm just challenging things that I learned, things that I've been implementing for many years for companies. So this has not been easy to recognize. If you look at any successful theory, if you think about strategy, most of you know that there's the 5 forces of Michael Porter. So just 5 elements, and you can have a good discussion with anyone in your company about strategy of your firm. They don't need to be PhD in strategy or ex-McKinsey consultant. No, it's just very simple. If you look at project marketing plans, marketing strategy, you have 7 Ps. Do you need to be a marketing expert? No. Can you use this and be a bit better on marketing? Yes. If you look at business models, you have the canvas from Alex Osterwalder and Yves Pignon, good friends of mine. Just 9 boxes. if you look at Agile, one of the reasons why 20 years ago this methodology was successful is just because it was so simple. Anybody could use it. If you look at project management, the problem is that there's nothing simple. Actually, let me just do a quick test here. When was the last time, what was the first edition of the PMBOK published? You can type that on the chat. So see, four options. Was the first PMBOK published on 94, 1996, 1999, or 1969? So quick question. Second, what's the length of the latest version of the 6th edition? How big is the PMBOK edition 6? Type that in the chat. I'll give you 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first version was 1996 of the PMBOK. It's quite recent if you look at the years. The exposure draft was presented in 94. Interesting, the first PMP was in 1984. So the PMP, the first one was in October 1984. So even before the PMBOK was established. But what I want to draw your attention is the number of pages. The last version of PMBOK is 756 pages, without counting the Agile Guide. Do you think anybody of the people working in projects will read that beyond the project management professionals? Will a sponsor ever open the PMBOK? Will a temporary project manager or project lead or team member ever read the PMBOK? No. What tools do we have for them? Nothing. Either you just become an expert because you like it. You see, it's very important. And I don't have anything about the PMBOK. I love the PMBOK. It's the best project management in the guide, but it's not for the 95% of the people who are working in projects, who will be working in projects and want to learn, but we don't have anything to offer. So I've developed a project canvas. I'm a good friend of Alex and Eve Pignon on the business model. So I said, if we have a business model for a canvas for a business, we should have that for a project. It's much more complex a business than a project. So it took me like 6 months to produce this canvas. This is part of my earlier book, The Project Revolution. When I showed this to Alex, he said, come on, you have 14 boxes here. It's way too much. I have just 9. I said, listen, Alex, be careful. Just try to put in a page 750 pages. So this has been already used for a year in several companies. It's a very simple way to put everybody in line about the key concepts of what is a project. This can be used at the beginning of a project, can be used as a checklist, it can be used in status update, it can be used to see whether a project has the fundamentals to be invested or not. I'm not saying you should avoid business cases and all the rest. I think that's useful, but for the 95% people working in projects, this is enough. Okay, so you recognize many of the things there. So it's just the way to present it makes a big difference. Another big mistake that I've done for many years, I've been implementing project management methodologies using PMI, chewing Prince 2, and from that saying, well, all your projects have to follow these methodologies. All the projects will have these phases, all the projects will have a project charter or project initiation document. And how could I be so wrong? I just realized this is just a vision I have like a year ago. I say, this is wrong. You cannot have a methodology for all your projects. It's like having a hammer to fix all the problems that you have at home. Imagine that you have any problem at home and I give you a hammer to fix it, whatever the problem is. This is what we've been telling, teaching, putting in place in most of the organization in the wrong, completely wrong. Second, then Agile came 20 years ago. A few weeks ago was the big celebration. So we say, well, take the hammer out. We don't need the hammer, it's too heavy. Let's use this screwdriver. And now we're telling you with the screwdriver, you can fix all the problems at home. Can you picture that? How ridiculous it is, what we've been doing? So my belief, and this is what I'm writing in this new book, is that we need a tool set. We need much more tools than what we know, and it's not one or the other. I think project management is very effective. Program management, even sometimes more. And mega projects, if you're lucky to do a mega project, that's amazing. But if the uncertainty is high, then use Agile. And my experience is like big transformation projects, they need a mix. It's a hybrid approach with some project management, program management, Agile methodologies. Some of the ideas will still be too mature to be developed. So ideation, design thinking, why not? So this is just disruptive in the way we approach projects. We cannot say one methodology fits all. We cannot say Agile will fix all your problems. We need to learn and build these toolkits. Another big mistake that we've done for 20 years, saying that if your project has low uncertainty and low complexity and it's just 50 Mondays, use project managers. Come on, how can you do that? How can you fix just a screw that has gone loose with a hammer? That's what we've been doing. Yeah, so continuous improvement. Why not? Lean Six Sigma, why not? Should be part of our toolkit. Another big issue, I think, that can solve the issue of having a lot of wrong projects is start too early. I think we are in a rush. We want to launch projects when the idea is still very mature, when we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the people. So develop an article. It's an article in HBR now, blog, the internet. Using the S-curve of learning. So there's always a phase where we're not experienced in whatever idea or project you want to hold. We don't have the knowledge yet. So why would you call a project on an idea? That's just impossible. That's 100% failure for sure. So using the S-curve to know when it's the right time to start the project, when we are ready, when we have the capacity, when we are mature, then is the best time. So you can Google this, you'll find it in HBR. It's just an attempt, it's just a starting point, but it's kind of quite useful to know when a project. Great example of when to start a project is Steve Jobs when he launched the first iPhone. The first idea to build an iPhone was presented to Steve Jobs in 2001. Great idea already from that moment. Huge potential in the market, growing market, huge market, Nokia and a great big market share. But Steve said, no, it's not the right time. We're focusing at the moment in the iTunes, in the iPod. So let's build a small team to experiment, to build the knowledge, the bottom of the S-curve. It took them 3 years to work on that bottom of the idea. And then after 3 years, Steve said, now is the right time to set up a project. And I want everybody working full time. And I want the best people from Apple working on this project. And in 2 years, you will have a smartphone, the first one. And I'm going to sponsor this project. I'm going to spend 2 days per week on the project. So 3 years ideation, then you start with the project, and then you do it right. So a great example, I've written a lot about this. The other big shift in mindset is this something I saw in Brussels. On a hospital, state-of-the-art, start of construction 2016, completion of the hospital 2020. To my surprise, they opened the hospital 2018, 2 years before the deadline. How come? How is that possible? How can you open a hospital before 2 years before the actual deadline? Well, they use Agile approach. They say half of the hospital will be open, half of the hospital will be still in construction. Smart. So in 2 years, you're making benefits, not 4. Why don't we use this more often? This is what we should do in all the projects that we're doing. All the projects. It's a big shift because it's easier to build a hospital, plan it, and then open it than saying, well, how I'm going to address the mess of operating while still constructing. Is a very different approach, but this is the approach that we need. So think differently. That's what we need to do as project managers. If we look at the project life cycle, this is, I think, for most of you, very familiar. The white part is the initiation, planning, implementation, closing. That's project management, 100%, I would say, 95%. Ideation, what happens there? We don't care. Nobody told us to look into that. We never look just because nobody told us to look. So better not see. Let's start when the idea is already chosen, even business case developed. When the project is over, what happens in run? We don't care. Bye-bye. We start again in initiation. Benefits, we put something because people think it's important. But is this really part integrated in our plans? No. I think the future is very different and it's moving very fast. So artificial intelligence is going to take 80% of the white thing. So 4 days out of 5, what you're doing today will disappear. 4 days out of 5 will be done by automation, which I find is great because we'll do things that really, really matter. So what are you going to be doing in the future? Spending much more time in ideation, yes. Understanding how ideas are built, facilitate that part. We're going to run sometimes what we built, and I'll give you an example later on why is this so important. And the big shift is we're going to focus mostly on benefit, big time on benefit. I think so far for the last 50 years, we built plans that show deliverables, right? That's what we build, plans that show deliverables. I think we need to switch that radically and say plans that show benefits. I don't want to show deliverables. Why? That's your internal kitchen. We want to show benefits. So I believe the plans of the future will just tell me the benefits. Where are we now in the hospital? How much patients do we plan to have? When it's going to reach the 100,000 and so on. Deliverables, bad. And I think this is linked to this part, the triple constraint, the goal rule. We all love, we learn that, but I think this is also quite outdated and often wrong, the triple constraint. How we consider a project that was originally scheduled for 4 years and a bit of 7 million, but it took 14 years to complete, a little bit more than 4 years, and it cost 102, a little bit more than 7 million. According to our KPIs, a failure. Stop it after 4 years, stop it after 5 or 6. It's red. All the KPIs are red. Stop it. Well, I'm talking about the Sydney Opera House. According to our KPIs, the project have never been done. It's a failure as a project, right? Why? How do we have this KPI? Why don't we have KPIs that tell us, yes, this project is still valid? It's actually very big. And in 1 year, you're going to recover all this 100 millions that you went to budget, which what happened. So I'm developing this concept of a new triple constraint around benefits. It's work in progress. I don't have yet the final. Any ideas are much welcome, but I think it's about the value, the benefits, the risk that we're taking, and the sustainability. I think this is an important part. How consider a project that is more than 100 years, not just 10? Terrible, no? This is the Sagrada Familia in Spain, in Barcelona. I love this project. They still continue. Is there an issue? No, they're late, but they're making money. They used to make, when pre-COVID, millions per day with the visitors. Tickets are very expensive and sponsors. So can you be 100 years late? Yes, as long as you make benefits. And the other thing, are people passionate about this project, even if it's late? Absolutely. I talk to them. I see very few people so engaged and committed to a project than this one. So why do we don't have a triple constraint about the people? People and benefits are the most important aspects of projects. So I'm developing this second triple constraint about engagement. The more engaged, the more dedicated the people, which is based on purpose and alignment. This is how they make it. I think with metric, which is a bit wrong. I don't think it's bad internal kitchen to have those, but we need to understand what's the value and the benefits. That's what stakeholders want to know. And people want to know about purpose, not the business case. People get excited when there's a higher purpose in your project, not because there's a percent return on investment. So that's the other thing. A lot to share, and I'm just going really quickly and trying to give you as much as possible. I want to be on time. I know I have 3-4 more minutes. So what does it mean? I'm telling you, great. There's a lot of projects in the world, in the companies. Most of the work will be project-based. When I talk about project, I don't say traditional project management. I think I just want to open that word and say projects are change, are initiatives. Some of them will be carried out with agile methods, some with Scrum, some of them will just continuous improvement, some of them will be traditional projects. So for me, that's what I mean. Project-based work is all that. So there's no doubt, but still the failure rate is terrible. It's really terrible, a shame of that. So we need to reinvent ourselves, and it's now or never. And what does it mean for us? How can we evolve? We are starting ahead of all that mass of people who have been focusing operations, who have made their careers in the world driven by efficiency. Those experts, deep expertise. I don't know, you probably you heard that many times, but in my career they say, what are you doing at work? Project management. What's that? You're a generalist. You will never progress in a career ladder. You need to be an expert to climb the ladder, and you will go very slow. And that was true. But I think in a world driven by change, we need deep generalists. And I don't use the word just generalist. I think we need to be deep understanding how to connect the dots. And to that, I have a final story, and then I'll tell you what we need to build. Cesar is a good friend of mine. We played together when we were kids. He's from Atletico Madrid. I'm from Real Madrid, so we were always kind of fun. But friends, after lost track after 20 years, I met him in Singapore, and he was VP of Microsoft Asia Pacific. He was number 5 or 4 in all Microsoft, working with Gates and Balmer. And I said, Cesar, what do you do? How do you become VP of Microsoft? And he said, well, I started my career selling Microsoft Office products in Madrid. Then at one point, Microsoft said, I want to enter the ERP market, the SAP market, and they didn't have anything. So they bought a company, Navision, and Navision was a good Scandinavian ERP. They asked Cesar, do you want to run this integration project and create our division ERP? He says, yes, I want it. So he dedicated 3 years as a project leader. He trained and learned project management. And then the integration was very successful. They had this business unit ERP, and I asked Cesar, what did you do after? Which project did you take? I'm sure very strategic after being so successful. And Cesar told me, Antonio, no, I didn't take any other project. I said, come on, this is what we all do in project management. We finish a project and we start a new one. He said, no, I told bosses I want to run the new business. There's no one that knows more about the ERP division than me. I spent 3 years, I built it. So that kind of said, my God, there's something really wrong in project management. Why the people that know most about what is being built run away and start all over again? I understand if you're doing contracting for infrastructure projects and you're building apartments, but within companies, why do we run away when the project is finished and there's something to run, when we're the best one to do it? So I think that's a big shift as well that we need to make in place. That's what I was talking of, expanding the project life cycle. The current one to dramatic, we need to move into. So what does it mean? As we need to know project management, built on agile method. It's not one or the other. That's a big mistake. You need to learn lean startup. You can't have a strong. You can say, well, I want to focus on project, but you need to learn agile, Scrum, Kanban. A bit of that and apply it. Lean startup, ideation, continuous improvement, all these methods. But then you also need to expand on both sides of the project lifecycle. So that's what I call an end-to-end implementation specialist. Product development, technology, and that's it. So I think the future is right. If we take the right steps, it's going to be very bright. If not, I think other people will move into this space very, very fast. And we're building 2 wise master classes, one on the project or what you've seen today, much more detail and with tools and mindset and all that. We're also thinking about the strategy implementation fundamentals, a one-day session on what does it mean, how can we elevate. And with that, well, you find more about me, the institute I built, downloadable. You can have free resources as well on the canvas and the project manifesto. Thank you. I think just on time. Yeah, 1 minute.
Thank you, Antonio. Do you have any questions, please? I have one question from Sylvia. How many pages will your new book have? So how long it will be?
Good question, Sylvia. It's about, we're cutting, but it will be around 180 pages, 200 maybe.
180?
But there will be the canvas that you've seen today with 14 pages. I cut it to 9 after discussing with Alex. And so, yes, simplification even more.
Okay, thank you. You had made a lot of statistics of failures of projects. Was there any distinction between a project failure because of the project or external forces or external environment? I guess
there is a lot of research on project failures. We need to be a bit skeptical. It's very hard to say a project is a success or failure. Sydney Opera House, for example, was a failure, then a big success. Berlin Airport is been a bit terrible failure. We don't know if it's going to be a success, but usually what you say is if you don't meet the objectives, if you are over budget, and I think for me, from my research, I would say 30–40% is on the sponsorship side. So sponsors, you're expected that they will know what they have to do in a project. They don't. So I think when I teach this, I say, you project manager, make sure the sponsor knows what they need to do, and otherwise don't take the project because your project will fail. So I would say sponsorship is a big part of project failure. The other big half is the scope, the definition, the objectives, the agility that you put into place. And the third element is the priority the project has in the organization. So that's kind of big ballpark figures. So 1/3, I would say, is ours, but we need to learn how to get the other 2/3.
Thank you. Yes, I like that Sagra Familia example. And the hospital, it reminded me that also Donald Trump had built hotels, and he was building the top stages, and the bottom of the hotel was already booked and in operation. So there are more examples like this. Okay.
Exactly.
Any questions there? Okay, thank you. Anthony is a trainer with extensive experience in strategy implementation. He has masterclass called Project Revolution. If you would like to improve in a project and have a good overview, then you can visit the masterclass in our expo area, where you get more information and details on masterclasses. So Simona is going to open soon the networking session. Over to you, Simona.
Okay.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio, for the mind-blowing presentation. I learned a lot, and we've got plenty of topics to cover with you when the time progresses. So exactly like my colleague mentioned in the chat box, you can find out more about the masterclass on Project Revolution in the expo area. This masterclass will be run by Antonio between 24th and 26th of May. And this is the sole masterclass that will help you build the competencies required for your organization to transform and thrive in today's digital and project-driven economy. So make sure you go check it out, and you'll get an extra discount, maybe, if you're lucky. So what else you can do during this break is to join the sessions. Those are the breakout rooms. It's just called sessions, where you can meet other delegates or speakers from the previous or future conferences to discuss pressing issues or opportunities in the industry with other professionals. So there's one session prepared for you called post-session Q&A, or you can join networking. How it works is that you will have 20 to 180 seconds to be randomly assigned to another attendee of this conference, and you can exchange very brief information about you, chit-chat, and then later on you can get connected either on LinkedIn or on our very new community platform called PPM Workout. I'm going to tell you something more about that. Like we want to stay strong and resilient in our bodies, we go to the gym regularly, and the same applies for the professional expertise. So if you want to stay on top of the game and become the strong and resilient one in the business, you need to put some continuous and regular effort for you to do so. That's why we've got this platform where we'll be running daily webinars of like 20 to 30 minutes a day, Monday till Thursday, 4 p.m. Central European time, or that's 3 p.m. UK time. And you'll be able to learn new things, meet the experts, and connect with the community of like-minded professionals. So this platform is a whole ecosystem, something like a social network that's specifically created for the niche of project, portfolio, and program managers in the healthcare and pharmaceutical industries. So make sure you check it out. I'll be waiting for you in the session, which can be accessed through the Expo area. So now we've got 20 minutes. So as I mentioned, join the breakout rooms or the Expo area, where you'll find out more information on the upcoming masterclasses with our former speaker, Antonio Nieto-Rodriguez. So see you later.